Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother and sister, welcome back to Islamic Notes channel. This Christian scientist converted to Islam. After studying the universe from the Qur'an, here's his story. This vast universe could not have just happened, but rather someone created it and through a process. Humans since ancient times have been very curious and very interested in everything related to the universe, especially with the question, how was the universe formed? So that it sparks a lot of debate. However, the Qur'an, as the greatest miracle, has answered humanity's greatest questions, long before the development of astronomical science and tools. 14 centuries ago, the Qur'an mentioned that the universe was created from a massive fog, Dukhan, which is now known as a nebula. Modern cosmology, observational and theoretical, has clearly shown that at one point in time, the entire universe was nothing more than a cloud of fog called a nebula, i.e., a composition of very dense and hot gas. The fact that the universe began as a cloud of dust is one of the standard principles of modern cosmology that is beyond dispute. And now scientists can observe new stars forming from the remains of that cloud. The sparkling stars we see at night, as well as the entire universe, were once made of such a foggy matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, "Then he went toward the creation of the sky, and the sky was still smoke." QS Al-Fush Silat 11. Since the earth and the sky, which include the sun, moon, stars, planets, galaxies, etc., were formed from the same mist, it can be concluded that the earth and the sky are one connected entity. Then from this homogeneous mist, they were formed and separated from each other. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Have not the disbelievers known that the heavens and the earth were of one joined piece? Then we parted them?" QS Ayanbiya 30. Regarding the origin of the universe as told in the Qur'an, Dr. Alfred Kroner, a leading earth expert, admitted to being amazed and at the same time surprised. Professor of geology and head of the Department of Geology at the Institute of Geosciences, Johannes Gutenburg University, Mainz, Germany said, "If you look at where Muhammad came from, I think it is very unlikely that he could know something like the origin of the universe from a single material, because scientists only found out about this a few years ago through various complicated methods and with the latest technology. This is the reality." A person who knew nothing about physics 14 centuries ago, I think, would never have been able to figure out through his own thinking that the earth and the sky were originally one thing, he added. Dr. Alfred Kroner revealed that geologists have not yet obtained evidence of this truth, except through recent modern research. He also assessed that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not receive this information except from the Most High, namely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Knowing this, the geology professor finally decided to declare himself a Muslim. Subhanallah. Dr. Alfred Kroner himself was born in Kassel on September 8, 1939, and died on May 22, 2019 in Freiburg. He specialized in the Precambrian geology of Africa and the geology of China. However, he also worked on many other geological problems around the world. The Islamic story of Professor Alfred Kroner, leading geologist. Professor Alfred Kroner is a world-renowned geoscientist, geologist, from the Department of Earth Sciences, Institute of Geosciences, Johannes Gutenberg University, Mainz, Germany. The secular European environment in which he lived has made him an atheist who has no faith whatsoever in the heavenly religions. The story of his Islam professor Alfred Kroner at that time attended a geology seminar at the Faculty of Earth Sciences, Geology, at King Abdulaziz University, Saudi Arabia. There he met a Muslim preacher named Abd al-Majid al-Zindani. Then a conversation took place between the two of them. Abd al-Majid al-Zindani: "Did you know that the Arabian Peninsula was once a fertile grassland filled with flowing rivers? The desert that we see today was once a fertile grassland filled with flowing rivers. Subhanallah." Professor Alfred Kroner: "The problem is known to the world and is a scientific fact that cannot be ignored. Geological scientists know it. If you dig the ground in the Arabian Peninsula, you will find relics that show the truth. The evidence is abundant, one of which is the relics found under the rocks." Abd al-Majid al-Zindani: Do you have evidence that the Arabian Peninsula will return to fertile grasslands filled with rivers? Professor Alfred Kroner. That is a truth that we already know. We geologists have measured and calculated it. We can predict when it will happen, not long from now. Abdel-Majid al-Zindani. Why is that? Professor Alfred Kroner. Because we have studied the history of the Earth, and we found that the Earth went through several phases. Among these phases, there is a period known as the Snow Age. Abdel-Majid al-Zindani. What is meant by the era of snows? Professor Alfred Kroner. What it means is, most of the water turned into ice and gathered in the frozen North Pole, and then moved slowly south. When it moved south, it would certainly affect the weather on the surrounding land. This would make the Arabian Peninsula cold because of its proximity to the southern region. So at that time, the Arab countries became the most fertile and green countries with their flowing rivers. I have connected the flow of rivers and rain in the Abha region with what happened in Northern Europe. Abdel-Majid al-Zindani. Yes, we believe that. Professor Alfred Kroner. Yes, because this is an undeniable scientific fact. Abdel-Majid al-Zindani. Now try listening to one of the following hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was narrated by Imam Muslim. Doomsday will not come until the Arab world returns to being a grassy plain and filled with rivers. Abdel-Majid al-Zindani then continued by asking questions. Who gave information to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the land of Arabia was once a grassy plain and filled with rivers? Professor Alfred Kroner thought. Then he answered, it could be a Roman scientist. Abdel-Majid al-Zindani then asked again, then who told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the land of Arabia would return to grassy plains and be filled with flowing rivers? Professor Alfred Kroner thought again. Then he answered, of course, from the one who knows this universe, God. Abdel-Majid al-Zindani. That's your opinion. Write it down. Professor Alfred Kroner then said, the scientific facts that I found in the Qur'an and the Sunnah, hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have amazed me. We geologists have not found evidence for that truth except recently through modern research. This shows that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not get that information except from the Most High. The meeting between Professor Alfred Kroner and the Islamic preacher only lasted for 2.5 hours. Finally, after that, the prominent professor of geology, who was originally a great German atheist, declared himself to be a Muslim. Subhanallah. What can we learn from this story? Indeed, so many facts that have been mentioned since the 7th century in the Qur'an and also in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were only known and scientifically proven by mankind 14 centuries later, all of which are signs of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For people who think, all of which are real evidence that the Qur'an truly comes from the all-knowing God, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is truly his messenger, according to the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Qur'an. We will show them our signs, power, in the horizons and within themselves, until it becomes clear to them that the Qur'an is the truth. And is it not enough for your Lord that he is a witness over all things? Qa Fussilat 53. People who can still think with common sense will surely find the real truth in Islam. Professor Alfred Kroner is one example. He admitted that it was impossible for a human being 14 centuries ago to have known that the Arabian Peninsula would return to being a grassland plain, because he and other geologists around the world only learned about this scientific fact in recent years through long modern research. So it is impossible for a human being 14 centuries ago to know about this fact unless they get information from God, the All-Knowing, who created the entire universe. Indeed, now is the age where everything is subject to science. However, since the beginning, science has been subject to its creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it true that the end of the day is near? In the hadith narrated by Imam Muslim above, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the end of the day will not come until the Arab lands return to being plains of grassland and filled with rivers. Geologists have recently discovered scientific facts that one day the Arabian Peninsula will return to being a very fertile plain. This has been explained above. The new snow age has actually begun. Currently, the snow at the North Pole is moving slowly south, approaching the Arabian Peninsula. This can be proven by facts in science, where the signs are clearly visible in the snowstorms that rain down on the northern parts of Europe and America every winter. Even Professor Alfred Kroner said that he and other geologists can predict when it will happen. Soon, he said. Does that mean that the end of the day is near? As Muslims, we believe and are convinced that the end of the day will definitely come, but the only one who knows when that time will happen is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Miracles of science. World scientists who discovered the truth of Islam through their research. The Qur'an is an open corpus that cannot be exhausted, said a figure. This statement further strengthens the various discoveries made by world scientists until they finally embraced Islam. The feeling of amazement, surprise, fascination, astonishment, and shock was unstoppable when they discovered the scientific truth. Who are they? How is the story of the discovery of the truth that made them fall into the embrace of Islam? In this book, the story is told of 12 world scientists who embraced Islam after discovering the truth of the Quran in their research. Among them are Alfred Kroner, geology, who stated that the Arabian Peninsula will return to being a fertile grassland filled with rivers. Dmitry Bolikov, who successfully revealed the truth that the sun will rise from the west. William Brown, who succeeded in proving that plants recite tasbih. Tagata Tejason, who discovered the secret of pain in the skin. Keith Moore, who was able to uncover the truth of embryology in the Quran. In addition, there are also some experts who may sound foreign to our ears. However, they managed to find the divine light in their research. Among them are Robert Guillem, Zaghloul An-Najjar, Leopold Werner, Jacques Y. Cousteau, Maurice Bucaille, Emma Clark, Fidelma O'Leary,